Episode 3.
Season 1, Episode 3, Take 1.
So to those of you who have watched up until now, you'll notice that Episode 1, we had headphones sort of off, but around our necks. Episode 2, we had headphones on. This episode, no headphones on. Just want to be clear that the producer of Growing Up and Getting Old is right here, and this is not what my expertise is in. So we're still trying to figure out all of the things that come with speaking into a microphone and recording 2 at a time. Also, my microphone wasn't on last session, so people were like, Sarah needs to speak up. I'm very loud, but my microphone was not working.
People need to stop telling her that because she speaks up just fine.
Yeah. So anyways, that I just want to be clear. And then we had a lot of people who were like, video was better this last time. We used a different video. So here we are. We're learning as we go.
Yeah, it's a new adventure, and I have no clue about any of this, so I'm zero help.
I think at some point we're going to end up with maybe enough sponsorships that people, and we're going to be like sponsored by, blah, 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 that somebody will pay for us to have it edited, and then we won't have to worry about it.
Okay.
I think is that the dream?
Go for that. That's the dream.
That's the dream.
We'll be living the dream.
Okay, so last episode was pet peeves, and I got a lot of feedback.
Really?
People are very much in the headlights or no headlights camp. Like, some people were like, I totally agree with you. Don't bank on your automatic sensor headlights. And I got a lot more people who were like, you are a crazy psycho person who cares far too much about people's headlights.
Yeah. So, I got one email saying that based on of our pet peeves, we might not be able to be friends with this person. So,
which is sad.
I'm not sure what that means, but
I think it also like lends itself to. I was sort of thinking through things of like, is this a pet peeve of mine? Is this like, I don't put my laundry away immediately, and I annoy myself with that. Not necessarily a pet peeve, but so
just an area of improvement.
Yeah.
So just want to be clear when I say that it's okay that we're not going to be friends with these people. That's not the okay part. I think it's an opportunity, right? Yes. To grow that friendship.
There you go.
So there you go.
I love it. Okay. So today, we did not record last week.
So welcome back from Leading Age Leadership Academy.
Thank you.
Super proud of you going to that. We missed you last week.
It was a humbling experience for sure. I'll tell a little bit more about it in my leadership moment of the week, but yeah, it was.
I heard there might have been a slight bit of angst involved with going down to the border.
Yeah, it was a little yangsty.
Yeah. Shout out to
Tita Seal.
Woohoo. All right.
The word angst does not get said around here. The word yanks does.
We're yangsting it.
We're yangsting it.
So
this week we are doing 5 things I would tell my younger self.
Yes.
And then we'll also record Thursday of this week, and we'll have our first guest on. So that to look forward to. Dodd Catman of MKM Architecture and Design, who helped us design this beautiful building, will be on this Thursday. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
So, 5 things I would tell my younger self. So do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so for those of you that are Mercy Me fans, just a shout out to their song, Dear Younger Me. Every time I thought about this, I actually played the song. So I told Sarah we need to have like walk-up songs to this, because so far I've thought of one for everyone that we've done.
Okay.
So the first thing that I would tell myself, I spent the early part, probably the first three and a half decades of my life, living from a vantage point of fear. I was in the honors college at Ball State University, and I had one of my mentors ask me to apply for the Fulbright scholarship. And I didn't because I was afraid. I was afraid to go overseas. I was afraid of what that meant. And so there was a lot of things in my life that I didn't do because of fear. And I allowed fear to be my decision maker for probably my first 35 to 38 years. And then when I realized that fear not only did not have to run my life, but actually should not be running my life, I started making different decisions, and my life changed immensely from that point on.
I like it. I remember this was a conversation we'd had before where you make decisions from fear. It's because you are lacking something.
Yeah.
Lack is a big
Yeah.
part of fear. My first, go to therapy earlier. I think at some point throughout this process, we'll probably, Deb's a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And yes, and I have had a very serious journey with, anxiety and depression, throughout my life. And so I'll probably talk about my mental health journey at some point, but, going to therapy earlier, I, kind of in my teen years, early 20s, lived with crippling anxiety, and I thought it was just normal, which is not. It's not normal. And so there were a lot of things that I didn't do. Going to get help and having someone talk me through kind of how that could be better was something that I would definitely do a lot earlier than I did.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? Because fear and anxiety are both like emotional crippling things. And they're things that probably, well, definitely I wouldn't have talked about probably 25 years ago. So I think it's great to be able to talk about this stuff now, because something I've always told people is I guarantee you, if you're feeling that, there's dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands or millions of people that feel the same way and suffer through the same thing. And I think there's advantages in knowing people like that to help you kind of mentor through those things. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
All right, number two,
financial stewardship. So this is my
yes,
this is my thing. Okay. So I would definitely had told my younger me, like at 18, every paycheck that you get, take that first 10% of that paycheck and put it in a savings account, and don't ever touch it. I don't care about what kind of car you want to buy. I don't care about what kind of leather coat you want to get. I don't care what kind of jewelry you want to buy. Just put it in a retirement account and don't touch it. And then take another 10% and donate it. I will tell you, yes, I still write checks, but my favorite, I know, not to everything. Okay, let me be very clear. But I do write checks to the organizations that I donate to, and I will tell you that every week that I pay my bills, they are my favorite checks to write, are the ones to the different organizations that I donate money to, and I do donate 10% of my income. And I give 10% to me, I give 10% away, and then I pay my bills with the rest. So I would definitely have started financial stewardship in my life before it's like everything happened at the age of 38. I don't really know what happened at 38, but a lot of stuff happened at 38.
Oh gosh,
so
I have 4 years to go.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff has happened.
You're ahead in the ball game. That's all I got to tell you.
I thought for sure this would be your number one.
No, fear was.
Got it.
I think my life would have been different. I don't know. I'm on the path I'm supposed to be on, so it is what it is. But yeah, I wish that I wouldn't have spent all those years afraid.
Gotcha. No, Deb will tell everyone, working with them, people that she meets on the street.
I do. I light my hair on fire and I'm like, Medicaid, Medicare aren't going to be there. You better finance your own retirement.
Yes.
So if you'd like to have more information, no, I'm kidding.
She's not a financial advisor, but she's like the best type of financial advisor because there's no incentive.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the best things is a lot of times people want to tell you about money because they get more money if they tell you about money. Yeah. Whereas Deb, that's not her thing.
So a plug for Byron, if you want to learn about financial stewardship, buying your first home ever, or investing, just become an employee at Byron and you get all those things for free.
Woo-hoo! And actually, we pay you.
Yeah.
You sit in the class, we pay you. Yeah, so you get them at an advantage. You don't even have to.
It's just a perk of the job.
Exactly. So. Absolutely. Okay, my number 2, travel, and travel some more. I didn't go on my first flight until I was 19 years old. So it was the first time I was flying anywhere. I was by myself, which was kind of weird anyways, but I was flying to a conference in Arizona. And I every time I travel, I learn so much about either where I am at, the people, the food, the culture, or more things about myself that I didn't know before the trip. And so I didn't go a lot of places. I grew up in a very small town, and you kind of, everyone just
scream queen.
Yes. Shout out to Utica, Ohio. I've already shouted them out numerous times, but I loved where I lived. But I think had I been able to experience all of our vacations growing up were at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which I love Myrtle Beach. But we just we were used to that. And so going to different beaches, going to different states, and now thankfully, because of Byron, I've been to a lot of different places. And it's just and my husband loves to travel, which is great. But I just wish that I would have gone more places, seen more things.
Though there's a lot of people that, I cannot tell you how many staff I've spoken to that have never been out of Indiana.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of people.
So again, that's where financial stewardship.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Traveling is not cheap.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. All right, number 3.
I would try to balance my life better. I will never regret putting my heart and soul into building this building. But honestly, I did end up in the hospital. I had no balance. I had no perspective. I was working 7 days a week. And then when the building was done being built and we moved in here, we had COVID. And it took me probably a year to learn how to not work 7 days a week. So I really lost that perspective. So trying to get back to finding my joy and having just good old fashioned belly laughs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I would have encouraged myself to do.
I think we would have, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Some of these things you'd tell your younger self, you would only be able to tell your younger self.
Because I would have poked your eyes
out
if you said that
no one would have been able to tell you hey, maybe take a day.
Yeah. I'd have been I can tell you where you can put your day.
So better now, I think.
Better now.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
All right, number 2. Some of these are very personal, I feel like, but number 3 for me. Love doesn't intentionally hurt. There's tough times in every relationship. And there are times where maybe you aren't your best self in a relationship. But healthy relationships don't include just coming from a place of judgment or jealousy or screaming or questioning. I think for me, you're gonna probably laugh at this, but I had this fairy tale in my mind of how relationships, Beauty and the Beast, you scream at each other and, banish each other from the house. And then at some point you make up and it's beautiful. But that's not real life. And so I think it took me a long time to learn that, and I wish I could go back and think differently through relationships. It was always the more drama, the more energy, the more everything, the more passion you put into everything, that's love. And it's that's not, I see this more and more in my life is that, just being able to have a conversation and not attack or not, well, that idea is, dumb. And again, fear or the anxiety of things, not letting those things get in the way. I always thought love was what you see in movies. Yeah, and it's not.
That's why everybody struggles, I think, with relationships is because you mean this doesn't really happen in a 30-minute time span? Once or 2 hours if you go to the movie. So,
absolutely. Yeah. All right. 4.
Only work for people and companies where your personal values align with the values of the organization. And pimping back to the financial stewardship, if you are financially set, and you have your 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up, then you can always walk away from an organization or a boss that doesn't value what you bring to the table. I have had jobs where I have woken up, and while I loved the team that I worked with, I hated the boss that I had, Chris.
Just
I
put it
don't
out
remember
there.
his last name, but Chris, I hope, well, never mind. He was horrible. And he made me hate my job, but I loved my team. I loved the residents that I was serving, and so I tolerated that. And I think if I could go back, I would tell my younger self to set him down and set him straight. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah.
So
I always, in working with Deb for so many years, I remember at one point I had asked you, like, previously to Byron, you'd always worked for like a corporation, like some sort of structure, and you'd always reported to, you know, a regional or somebody. And I was like, how did you do there what you did here? And I think you were just sort of like, well, I just did it. And
I do what I want.
sometimes they didn't like it, but here we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, okay. I think when I was at Leadership Academy this week, we talked about like a mentor that has kind of helped you throughout life. And some people talked about some of their best mentors were like the worst people, which is kind of surprising to me, but it kind of teaches you how you don't ever want to be.
Yeah, I didn't know what kind of leader I wanted to be. I definitely knew what kind of leader I never wanted to be.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to Chris. So,
Wherever you are.
yeah, and I hope you watch this.
I hope you have taught yourself some things
Yeah.
to yourself.
Listen here, mister, you are horrible. But anyway, go ahead.
Give a little bit of an opinion about it. Yeah. Mine, I feel like sort of along the same lines. Figure out your core values and stick to them. We have an exercise that we did here where you had like a deck of 52 cards and you kind of pared down from they all had a word on them that was a core value. And from those 52, you pared them down to 5. And I think it was important for us to do it as an organization because you figure out if you do align with the organization, not everything perfectly, but making sure that family is one of my core values, and obviously like I want to work in an environment that supports that, and obviously Byron does. I'm very grateful, but humor is one of my core values, and there are times in life where I can see myself just diverting back to humor, like, and it's like sort of become like, so at times a crutch, but it's a crutch because it's a core value of mine. And I think there are some places that you can work at that it's not maybe super encouraged to be funny, or you do it in like these corners, but I feel like I can be my weird funny self all the time, which is important to me. And I have also worked at places. I don't have a Chris, I will say that, but I have worked at places.
I would hope not, because then I'd be that Chris. So
I have worked at places.
That would be awkward.
That would be awkward. I have worked at places where, it wasn't, you didn't let your freak flag fly, as we like to say at Byron Health Center, that it wasn't super encouraged to bring your whole self to work. And I think that, it's sort of, I know there are people who prefer work me and home me because it's a good separation. I'm just not one of those people. So I'm not somebody who assigns themselves to like work-life balance or anything like that. Me as a person has to be able to bring my whole self to work. So I'm grateful that I get to do that. Yeah. All right, last one.
Personal and professional success is defined by the lives that you impact, not the letters behind your name. So I happen to have HFA, MS, and CEO behind mine. And I think sometimes for me, it was easy to look around when I did work for these corporations that had 10, 12, 80, communities, 100 and some communities, and look at this administrator and say, oh, look at them, they're really climbing up the ladder. Look at them, they're climbing up the ladder. And I wanted that for me, but I wanted it for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And when I stopped wanting them for me and I started focusing on, wow, I'm at a really good place that a lot of people don't get to. And so if I focus on helping other people get there or get close to there or achieve whatever goal that they have for themselves, then that fills my bucket. And so I would have started doing that a lot earlier in my career. So, yeah.
I like it. I'm guessing there's probably people who think, well, that's easy to say now that you have CEO behind your title. But I think that it's like, it's not easy because all of the work that you took to do that is kind of, I think about that.
Yeah, I think it is easier doing it as the CEO because it's shocking and sad how many doors
That's true.
those letters get you through. But so it's like any other, so it's like a superpower, right?
Yeah.
So the choice of using that for good
Mhm.
and not using that for evil
Yes.
is a conscious choice that I've made to try to help people in their journey and
Absolutely.
the goals that they want to
That
achieve.
if you are a creditor trying to call one of our employees incessantly, there might be times where the person that picks up the phone is not the employee. It is the CEO.
It could be.
So,
it could be.
yeah, and I think, using it for good and
Yeah.
like helping.
Or if you can't get in for a mammogram,
Yes.
you might tell me and I
Yeah.
might be able to get you in a little quicker.
I feel like we're sort of through this whole process telling you all the reasons why working at Byron might give you advantage over working other places. So,
Could be.
yeah, no, agreed. All right, my fifth, figure out a different way to pay for college. Student loan debt sucks, and it feels like I don't know, at this point, a 35,000 pound tumor. It was pretty much, like, you've got to figure out where you're going to go to school. And super grateful for my experience through college. But in looking back on it, there were a lot more opportunities rather than just living up the college experience where a work study or scholarships, things like that. I think we have tuition assistance here, and I know that a lot of companies have tuition assistance. But it was one of those things like when I was, 18, 19 years old, like I just want to hang out in my dorm room and have all the fun.
Had you attended my financial stewardship
exactly.
class when you were...
Exactly. So, obviously I'm blessed that I don't have the experience a lot of people do where I keep paying it and it is going nowhere. I've been able to pay a lot down, but definitely saving for my kids because and shout out to Deb, because she puts in their every birthday, she puts in their college fund, which I'm super grateful for. But in looking back, there's times where I'm like, if I would have known it, people say you don't give an 18-year-old, you're not going to give them a mortgage for $100,000, but we'll give them a student loan for $100,000. And we're like, this will work.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. So there were a couple of loans that I took out that you paid the interest while you were in school. And that made a huge difference because once you're out, then you only have to pay principal, and it was over within like 2 years. Whereas the rest of them where I'm paying interest, I'm like, 10 more years.
Oh dear God.
I know. All I know is I'm taking like my whole family. Once I pay off all my student loan debt, I'm going to have my whole family is going to like France or something because I'll be able to afford it. So yeah, but figure out a different way to pay. I know, and there's probably not many 18-year-olds who listen to our podcast. But if there are, or 17, 16, and you're looking for ways to pay your way through college, there are a lot of ways. And it doesn't even have, we'd obviously love for you to work here and we'd love to pay. We've paid, I don't even know,
I don't know, but we should know those
we
numbers.
should know those numbers. Probably
Yeah.
10 different people to go through college and get their degree.
I would think.
Yeah.
At least, yeah.
So, my master's program was paid for by Byron, and super grateful for that. To go out of getting my master's and not having debt was like, I felt like I was on top of the world. And I was like, thank God, because I couldn't take on anymore. So, but yeah, if you want tips, I can give you some tips on how to not come out of your undergrad with, a million mounds of student loan debt.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Those are your 5.
That's my 5.
It was very therapeutic for me to think through these.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I asked Sean, and he said his would be to spend more time and be in the moment with family. 2 of his uncles died at the age of 50, and they were very close to him. And even now, like when he'll talk about them, it's like, I could have seen them so many more times. And he hates that he has like that regret. I think he's got to work through that, but that's true. I think.
Well, and I think that brings up like the whole thing. So when I was looking at the 5 things, like what would I tell my younger self? I don't really want to live, me, I don't like to be negative. I don't like to speak in the negative. And I don't really want to live in a world of regret. I'd rather live in a world of, okay, this is lesson learned.
Yeah.
So on the go forward, what's going to change?
Yeah.
But, I will say that when I went through this, I had just that little hint of regret, and I had to be like, no, wait a minute, because it's what brought me to who I am today.
Absolutely.
And so I would never,
Chris.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, he motivated me to be better than him, which didn't take much. Low bar. But nonetheless, if he would have been amazing, which he was not, maybe I wouldn't have been as motivated.
Absolutely.
So it really put me on this path of, I need to understand leadership versus management / dictatorship.
Amen.
So, yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Leadership lesson of the week.
So we, and I'm not saying that just because you weren't there this week. So every Wednesday we have leadership, and we did Minute to Win It this past week in leadership. And I will tell you what, I saw people shake their booties like I've never seen them shake. And competitive, geez, do we have and I mean, it's not just me or Libby. There's
Terry.
A whole bunch of people. Yeah, a whole bunch. I mean, I literally had to step in and be like, okay, wait a minute. I'm going to make the final call on this one. I mean, we had photo finishes, like people were videotaping stuff. So we did a replay. I mean, but laughter, oh my gosh, we had a ton of laughter. And it used to be that laughter at work was like, well, this isn't productive. But there's a lot of productive things that happen in laughter. So I think for me, that was the lesson of the week is laughter at work. It can be distracting. It can take away from, but purposeful, intentional, team building laughter. We walked out of there just having the time of our life.
They sent me pictures and I was super jealous. The cookie from the forehead to the mouth.
Yeah, could not get that.
People are like,
and I'm convinced that had my dog been there, he'd have got it right away.
That is true.
Yeah. So I'm a little concerned about Sylvia. She won a lot of stuff.
Really?
Her and Jill.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she won the cookie thing.
Gotcha.
So I'm wondering what kind of things they do after hours.
After hours, but I mean, I don't know if you want to wonder. I'm gonna be honest. My leadership lesson of the week. So I was in Arizona for the Leadership Academy. We do 2 site visits. Deb's an alum, so shout out to the Leadership Academy.
Class of 2017, Dreamweavers. And yes, there was the song associated with that.
I love it.
Everybody should have a walk-up song.
We have not figured out our name yet. It was not part of our, but we're working on it. But meeting my team, group of 9 people that are just fantastic. I love them. Our image on our group chat right now is a boot because we had a hike. And a couple people bought new boots specifically for the hike, and they were very excited to be able to wear their new boots.
Wow.
So I did not do the hike. I instead went to this Native American museum. It was really amazing. So it was in Arizona, in Tucson, and we did our site visit was to the Tohono O'odham Nation, which is on the border of Arizona and Mexico. And it's the nation is the size of Connecticut.
Wow.
But it has 25,000 people that live on the whole entire thing. So they're very spread out. But we they have a nursing home, Archie Hendricks, on the reservation. And it was, the only word I can truly use is humbling. And the lesson I took away from it was we measure in this industry things by how many, your 5-star and how many survey tags and how many you know, pressure injuries and all these things. We have like this, we measure and measure and measure and measure. And I would say on paper, Archie Hendricks, you know, by all of those measurements, struggles. But when you're there, the pride that these folks have to be able to care for their own, immeasurable. It would, like, to keep someone in their own environment. So sometimes if they go to the hospital off reservation, they'll say, I want to go home. And the hospital assumes back to their home establishment, like their actual physical location of home. They only mean that if I'm going to have to go to long-term care, rehab, assisted living, that I go home to Archie Hendricks. And I think the physical structure of the place is not outstanding. Like it doesn't shock you. It's not, you know, super overwhelming. Like they've made this huge dedication to the nation through the physical structure of the building. It is all in how they care for and respect and ensure that the culture that these folks have known their whole lives is carried through every aspect of care. So they had in total 34 residents that were there at the time, and they have 140 staff members.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I'm guessing they've never had agency.
Well, so they do, because they want a certain amount of nurses. And because it's so important that and a lot of them, the whole thing, they have staff housing on site. And some of them, they have one of their housekeeping supervisor has lived at the on-site housing for 17 years.
Wow.
They've been in existence for 20. And when all of us kind of took away from it that the amount of staff, like in what world? That would not be, I mean, at that point you're doing like 3-to-1 staffing. Right. And in this world, that's just not something that typically happens. But in just the way that they supported their staff, we talked with the director of nursing and their president of their board of directors, and they continued to stress about how important it was to continue to build up their staff. And it truly, like, so I just think one of the things I walked away from was like all of the things that we measure by. Sometimes those things aren't important. They are important.
Most of the time, they're not important.
Exactly.
I will just tell you.
Yeah.
They're important to CMS.
Yes.
And the people in Washington, D.C. that
Yes.
don't do this, have never done this,
Yes.
and will never do this.
Yeah.
What is important, and so what I'm hearing you say is this, like, so it's
The feeling.
Byron,
Yes.
but serving a different culture.
Yep. Yep.
And it's the culture with which you bring your staff to the level and the expectation to care for the people that you care for. So, and that's something CMS will never get.
No, you can't.
It's
you can't
something
survey
that you can't measure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is the one ingredient that makes us different from everybody else, and it makes them different from everybody else. So now I'm a little jealous. I kind of want to go out there and see the place.
It was in the
road trip.
I know they did they gave us all a necklace. Seashells are really important to their culture of that nation. The men of that nation travel to do this kind of pilgrimage to find themselves, and they end up at the Gulf and all of these, and just they gave us all these seashell necklaces, and the process of that was overwhelming for a lot of us, just because this Mark, who's the social worker there, but he also kind of represents his tribe in the nation. He gave us the necklace, and he's giving us a hug, and they prayed over us. They did a whole ceremony, and it was really amazing. And we have talked prior to moving into this beautiful building that we could do this in a tent, and it would feel the same, and we would still show the same care. And that's how I felt in there. There's Travis, shout out to Travis, who was our, he's the director of supportive services coordination, I guess you would say. He's worked there. He lives off reservation. He's worked there for, I want to say 11 years. He drives 2 hours to get there and 2 hours home. And he's done it for 11 years.
Wow.
Because of how special it is to him.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking like,
oh, now I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta
it was life-changing. It was life-changing.
Warning, I'm gonna invite myself to your place.
Well, and they said, you have an open invitation anytime you want to come. And, but it was amazing. And I'm super grateful, of course, that Byron, supports me in going, but super grateful that, to even have this opportunity and I don't know, it was awesome. So that was my leadership lesson, that not everything is measurable.
Yeah.
In the way that we measure things.
Yeah. And I would venture to say the things that matter to our residents
absolutely
are immeasurable.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
Ooh, we got a little.
I can't wait to hear more about your trip.
Yeah. So, all right, leadership lessons. 5 things I'd tell my younger self. There we go. We're doing
knocked it out.
Episode 4 on Thursday with Dodd, and we're doing our 5 top foods. So I don't think it's going to get this deep.
Yeah, probably not. Food's not necessarily that much.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed episode 3.
Yes.
We're still getting the hang of this.
Yeah.
So
definitely. But you're gonna add walk-up music, right?
Yes. I will add walk-up music. We'll have to switch. Maybe we'll ask Dodd what his walk-up music is. Yeah. So for Friday.
I bet there's something.
I bet it's really great.
Figure out.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you for listening in to Growing Up and Getting Old.